2 films, 1 year, and a decision that could risk everything. In 1993, Steven Spielberg found himself at the center of a high-stakes crossroads, balancing 2 of the most ambitious projects of his entire career. On one side was Jurassic Park, a film that had already pushed the limits of technology with its revolutionary CGI dinosaurs, and was poised to redefine the blockbuster cinema. On the other hand was Schindler's List, a deeply personal calling, an unflinching Holocaust drama that would force him to confront his Jewish heritage and immortalize the stories of survival his grandfather once told him as a child. One film was all but certain to be a massive success. The other was a leap into the unknown, a project that carried profound emotional weight but came with no guarantees. And yet Spielberg knew he could not wait. The Polish winter, essential for Schindler's List, would come only once that year. Postponing the project meant delaying it indefinitely, but leaving Jurassic Park behind meant stepping away from a film in its final stages of post-production, with crucial tasks like sound mixing, color correction, and editing left incomplete. The timeline left no room for error. By March 1993, Jurassic Park was in its final stages, but Spielberg knew he had to start Schindler's List before it was too late. He called in a favor from a friend, George Lucas, to oversee Jurassic Park's final touches. Lucas supervised the remaining sound mixing and visual refinements, while Spielberg left for Poland. Jurassic Park premiered on June 11, 1993, becoming an instant phenomenon, but Spielberg was already deep into filming Schindler's List, barely able to witness the success of the film he had just completed. By December 15, 1993, just 6 months later, Schindler's List premiered. But what would happen? Welcome to Phoenix Histories, the #1 channel for inspirational histories covering the greatest figures who defied expectations and rose like phoenixes. On one hand was Jurassic Park, a film Spielberg described as my childhood dreams come true. But behind the scenes, the stakes were high and the challenges were immense. Spielberg envisioned dinosaurs that didn't just look real, but they had to move, breathe, and feel alive. Even with his elite team of Stan Winston, Phil Tippett, Dennis Muren, Michael Lenteri, the process was arduous. Sculptures were painstakingly molded, skins layered onto robotics, and countless tests were conducted. If they didn't look real, Spielberg said, the movie would fall apart. But that wasn't the only problem. Early footage of the dinosaurs running looked unconvincing, too jerky, too artificial. Spielberg's children, acting as early test viewers, believed in the vision. But Dennis Muren's CGI tests finally turned skepticism into awe. A single test of a T-Rex running through sunlight convinced Spielberg to pivot heavily into CGI, reshaping filmmaking forever. Yet, as Phil Tippett famously quipped, this decision left many traditional animators feeling extinct. Meanwhile, on Spielberg's desk lay a script that had been 10 years in the making, Schindler's List, written by Steve Zaillian and based on Thomas Keneally's book. It was a story Spielberg had avoided up until this moment. I read it with my wife, Spielberg recalled. We passed the pages back and forth, and I just knew I had to make this movie. The story of Oskar Schindler was a calling Spielberg could not ignore, deeply rooted in the echoes of his grandfather's tales of persecution and survival, shared with Spielberg when he was just a child. Yet making that decision came with enormous risk. Jurassic Park was still in post-production, with sound mixing, editing, and color correction far from complete. Walking away at such a critical stage risked undermining one of the most ambitious films of his career. To take on Schindler's List, Spielberg had to entrust Jurassic Park to someone else. An almost unthinkable move for a filmmaker so deeply invested in his projects. But he turned to George Lucas, a trusted friend and collaborator, asking him to oversee the final touches. It was a bold and risky gamble, placing the fate of one film in another's hands to pursue a story that could not wait. I have to go, he told co-producer Kathleen Kennedy. Don't ask me why, I just have to do it now. This was uncharted territory, balancing 2 monumental films at once, each with the potential to define or derail his career. Spielberg's instincts told him to move forward, but the risks were enormous and there were no guarantees here. Poland's harsh winter provided the grim backdrop for Schindler's List, but for Spielberg, this was more than a film. It was deeply personal reckoning with his heritage. His grandfather, Philip Posner, had fled Odessa after enduring the brutal anti-Jewish pogroms, bringing with him vivid stories of his persecution and resilience. These tales shared with Spielberg as a child, painting a haunting picture of Jewish oppression that now played out in agonizing detail on set. During filming, Holocaust survivors visited the production, their presence grounding the story in painful reality. One woman approached Spielberg not to seek a role, but with a plea. "Do you have a tape recorder? Record my story so it isn't lost." Her words stayed with Spielberg, later inspiring the creation of the Shoah Foundation to preserve the voices of those who lived through the Holocaust. But the emotional toll of the project was staggering. Ralph Fiennes' chilling portrayal of Amon Goth was so convincing that it left some survivors trembling, and the weight of recreating such horrors often overwhelmed even Spielberg. "It was one of the darkest things I've ever done," he said. After long days on set, he would retreat to his rented home in tears, finding moments of solace in his family and occasional phone calls from Robin Williams, who called Spielberg to lift Spielberg's spirits. The filming process was a delicate balance of historical accuracy and storytelling. Spielberg's decision to shoot in black and white gave the film a stark, documentary-like realism. The single burst of color, the girl in the red coat, became a haunting symbol of innocence lost. Casting Liam Neeson as Oskar Schindler was another critical decision. He initially approached Harrison Ford, who declined, fearing his star power would overshadow the story. Neeson's understated performance captured Schindler's transformation from a profiteer to a savior. So then what happened? Jurassic Park roared into theaters as a box office juggernaut, shattering records of over $1 billion in earnings and transforming blockbuster cinema forever. Its groundbreaking visual effects set a new standard, making dinosaurs not just believable but awe-inspiring. The film swept the technical categories at the Academy Awards, winning 3 Oscars for Best Sound, Best Sound Effects, Editing, and Best Visual Effects, cementing his legacy as a technological marvel. Yet, as the world marveled at the spectacle, Spielberg was already immersed in his true test of legacy, Schindler's List. This was the film that transformed him. Schindler's List received 12 Academy Award nominations and won 7, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, and Best Film Editing. It didn't just dominate awards season, it redefined Spielberg's identity as a filmmaker himself. It silenced critics who once dismissed Spielberg as an entertainer for adolescents and revealed the profound depths of his artistry. The black and white cinematography, the haunting red coat, the visceral performances left audiences shattered. But for Spielberg, the greatest reward wasn't the accolades, it was the impact. He donated his earnings from the film to establish the Shoah Foundation, a monumental effort to record and preserve the testimonies of Holocaust survivors. It was his way of ensuring that stories his grandfather once told him of resilience and survival would live on. Reflecting on this monumentous chapter of his career, Spielberg said, "I feel I have a responsibility and I want to go back and forth from entertainment to socially conscious movies." It was a promise that defined the rest of his journey. Jurassic Park, made on a budget of $63 million, became a global phenomenon grossing over $1.1 billion, forever altering the landscape of blockbuster filmmaking. Schindler's List, a vastly different project with a modest budget of $22 million, was a critical and commercial success, earning $322 million worldwide and securing 70 Academy Awards. Spielberg proved that he could bring dinosaurs to life and give voice to the silenced, bringing the worlds of spectacle and significance like no one else ever could. Steven Spielberg's journey in 1993 was about more than filmmaking. It was about trusting his instincts and honoring his roots. By embracing both his passion for storytelling and his responsibility to history, he bridged worlds, bringing awe to audiences while preserving the voices of the past. It's a testament to the power of listening to the call within, even when it demands immense risk and sacrifice. So when faced with your own defining moments, remember Spielberg's path. Trust your instincts, honor what matters most, and know that what seems impossible may simply be waiting for you to rise to the challenge. And just like that, he burned, only to rise like a phoenix.